everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome to the first day of the Trans Rights Readathon. This is a readathon that is happening from March 20th, today, through March 27th, and the goal is to basically be reading books with trans or non-binary characters and authors that are also trans or non-binary. I have picked some books that I want to really get to for this readathon. Every single author that I have picked is either trans or non-binary because they are under the same umbrella. The books, some of them do have that rep, some of them I'm not entirely sure about, and then some of them don't. But because I am mostly trying to read from those authors specifically during this week, that's fine. I am planning on vlogging, obviously, and some people are also raising money for different trans organizations. I have not decided where I'm going to be doing that for, but I think I'm going to do like a base sum per book read sort of thing and then donate at the end of the video. We will see what sort of places we have that for, because I know some people are doing like specific like state ones. Some people don't live in the United States and they're doing ones from their country. So we shall see. I figured we'll start off with sort of the types of books that I want to read and go from there, because I have ones that I really want to get to, and then I have some extras as a just in case, because I have quite a few. This is not even all of the trans or non-binary book stuff that I have on my shelves. These are the ones that I want to read. So the first book that I really want to get to is Spellbound by F.T. Lukens. This was already on my TBR for this month, which is great for this readathon. This is by a non-binary author, and from my understanding, we do have non-binary rep in the book. It is going to be a YA fantasy with magic, something to do with like competing magicians. Are they actually magicians? I don't know if that's what they classify themselves as, but then something happens and they have to sort of work together to, you know, save magic. I'm very curious about this one. So I have an ARC actually, because this one comes out at the beginning of April and I needed to read it anyway so I can get my review up on Goodreads and NetGalley. So this is my first priority. I also have The Deep by River Solomon. This is another non-binary author who I know in some of their books they do have non-binary or trans rep. I'm not entirely sure what we have in this one, but I'm assuming we might. This one was a gift from Olivia, from Olivia's Catastrophe, so thank you so much for that. It is a very short, like novella length book, and I have been desperately needing to get to this. Very curious about it because it is going to be a sort of mermaid, siren sort of thing, but I heard it's very much into like the Afrofuturism aspect of it. I think it deals with slavery or something like that as well, and so I desperately need to read this one. The next one I have here is Cinder Ella by S.T. Lin. Technically I have Cinder Ella, Mermaid, and Beauty's Beast. These are all very short. Like, I want to say Cinder Ella says, according to like Goodreads and everything like that, that it's like under 70 pages. Black trans fairy tales. This is by a trans author, and all of the characters in these stories, they are going to be based on the fairy tales, obviously, Cinderella, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. They are all trans women, and so I'm very curious how that's going to play out. I did fund these on Kickstarter as ebooks. You could get them as a physical book as well, but I wanted the ebooks because I find those a little easier to read sometimes, and I'm going back and forth between physical and ebook stuff. So for that one, I want to at least read Cinder Ella, which is technically the first one in this like series, this little trilogy of fairy tales, but I might read more this week as well, depending on all my other reading, because like I said, they're very short. And then my other like must read is going to be In Between by M.J. James. I do actually have a physical copy that the author sent me, and it's signed. I was very excited to get this, but I did purchase my own ebook version, so I might read it either way. We shall see, but this is another non-binary author. This one does not have non-binary rep because this was their first book, and I do believe they're putting more of that rep in the next book that they're actually doing, which I think has like officially been like written, and it's just not quite out yet. But yes, I'm very excited for this one. This one is going to be following a single mother, I'm pretty sure, who has autism, and so I'm very much looking forward to that sort of representation as well, and it is going to be adult fantasy. So those are like my priorities. I do have some other things here as well. So I do have The Angel Room by Lee Call. This is an indie book by a non-binary author that I believe is more of a YA sort of horror. A girl has like a demon that she can see, and it's like an actual demon, and she has to come to terms with some things, like maybe having a demon's not the best thing to have, you know, like we'll see. I'm very curious about this one. The author also did their own art on the cover. I then also have Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. This is an adult romance between a female character and a non-binary character, and I'm very curious about this one. From my understanding, Anita Kelly is non-binary as well. And then finally, if we can get to it, I do also have The Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas. I loved Cemetery Boys, and Aiden Thomas is a trans author. There should be a trans masked character in here as well, and I very much need to read this. I think it's a duology or a series, and so part of the reason I hadn't read this yet is because I didn't have a copy in my hands, but the other part is that I'm pretty sure it ends on a cliffhanger, and yeah. But those 3 books are more of, if I can get to them, I would like to. The other 4 that I first talked about are priorities, because I need to read those. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be vlogging my Trans Rights Readathon stuff, and then I will be figuring out exactly how many books I read and donating to a trans rights organization at the end of this video. We'll figure that out together as we go. Okay, so it is 5:30. I'm making a chicken pot pie for dinner, but we're waiting for the chicken to actually like fully cook through before I put all the rest of the stuff together to make the pot pie. So while I'm waiting for that, I figured I'd come and give you an update, because during Elliot's nap this afternoon, I did read and finish Cinder Ella by S.T. Lin. This is the first book in the like Black trans fairy tales series that they have done that I did help fund on Kickstarter. I loved it. I don't know, I felt like I shouldn't give it 5 stars because of the fact that it was very, very short, and I don't know, there was just something about it where I was like, does this really equal a 5-star book? But I rate purely based on enjoyment, and I enjoyed the fuck out of it, so yeah, I gave it 5 stars. I really, really like this one. It is Cinderella, with some liberties taken. Obviously, it's not like a direct retelling, although it is very, very similar to some parts of it. But Cinderella is a trans woman. There is dead naming throughout, so just be aware of that. I mean, obviously, the stepmother and stepsisters are not nice people. And I do feel like part of it is also the fact that Ella hadn't come out to her stepfamily because they weren't nice people. It is also sapphic. I was not expecting a sapphic romance from this, but I was very pleasantly surprised. And so, yeah, I absolutely loved it. Like, tugged at my heartstrings multiple times. And so, yeah, 5 stars. 5 stars. We are starting off this vlog great. Hello, happy Tuesday. I did start reading. Hello, Presley. Okay, sit on down, please. I did start reading In Between by M.J. James last night. I'm about 74, 75 pages in. I'm actually reading it on ebook, or at least I was last night, because it's just easier to do when the kids are in bed. And we haven't gotten in enough for me to fully like figure out how I feel about this book yet. The biggest thing for me so far is that this is going to be Own Voices autistic rep in here, and I do like some of the stuff that they've mentioned, because like they have mentioned like the fact that they really like routines, and that she, you know, doesn't like to do certain things, or does like to do certain things, like likes to be early to appointments, that kind of stuff. And I did like that so far. However, I'm not fully liking our main character as a character because of how she's acting as a single mother. And I know this is not necessarily something that is going to be your thing. If you like single mother stuff in books, every single mother is going to be different, obviously. But we start off in this story where she is at work, she's like a receptionist, and she gets a call from her son's school saying, we have had an issue. And I also don't exactly like how the school is handling stuff, so obviously it's not a very good school environment, but they call saying we have an issue, and her as a mother is sort of like, what have you done now? I don't want to come take care of it. I don't want to like handle anything. And I'm just like, I sort of understand because you're obviously having issues with the school, but at the same time, they then tell you that your son is missing, and you're like, are you sure? Have you looked everywhere? And I'm just like, I would very much be concerned if you tell me that my son is missing. And it just felt a little bit flippant in that way. We eventually go to the school, and she's at the school, and the school is also, I guess, in the past accused this son of other things that are very much improbable, impossible types of things. Things that are probably leaning into magic. The thing is, this mother gets very, very mad that they're accusing her son of anything and acts very Karen-ish when she's talking to anybody of authority at the school. And it's very annoying that way, because I used to work at a school and there are parents very much like that. We then get her talking with her son later, and he says that he thinks he has done some of these things, and she's like, no, there's no way, because it's not magic related. And so yeah, we have stuff that's not so great at the school, and then also the mother as a character not listening to her son, first of all, but also not believing the school whatsoever, and just sort of like having to deal with it that way. Then there's also one other part that I felt was a little bit exaggerated. I don't want to say it's out of character or something that could never happen, but it felt very exaggerated just so that we had issues that this mother had to overcome. Is she obviously, like I said, answered the phone at her job with them saying, hey, we're missing your kid, and she didn't want to leave work, and she was very like, I don't want to come and deal with this, which again, I don't agree with. But the boss said, if you leave to go figure out where your 8-year-old son is, you're fired. And she lost her job. And again, I don't know what she's had to necessarily deal with in the past or what, but all of those things stacked up together in the first like 2 chapters just made me feel a little bit judgy about what's going on. Like I said, I have really enjoyed the actual like autism rep where they are talking about how she decides to do stuff during the day, how she deals with that and the prejudice of that as being a single mom. Like, so far so good. And then the only other thing I did want to mention, because it was not something that I was fully aware of, there is a content warning in here saying that there is rape off page, and it is off page, but you get the beginnings of the uncomfortableness that she has with this guy character that's in here. We don't really know much about him, but that is how her son is conceived, is through rape with somebody that she doesn't know, who seems very off, and now they probably, I'm assuming, had some sort of magic, because the kid seems to have magic, because this is going to be a fantasy as well. We will see how we get more into it, because I definitely want to read more of this, give it more of a try, hopefully more today. But I'm also having reading sprints later today. I wasn't intentionally doing reading sprints for Trans Rights Readathon. It was more just, I usually do reading sprints every 3rd Tuesday of the month, and that's when it so happened to be. I think for reading sprints, I'll probably end up moving to the deep, just because I want to give a different type of book for reading sprints, and actually might be able to finish this whole one during reading sprints. We'll see, but I feel like that would be a good time to pick up something else, especially one that's a little bit shorter, and maybe potentially get it done in one whole sitting. I just got through chapter 2 of The Deep, obviously, and this one is very interesting so far. Like, I knew a cursory amount of it, like, before I started this one, obviously, and I still don't fully know like everything about it, but it is basically, I don't know what they call themselves, sirens or mermaids, something like that, where they are descended from, I think they called it like
drowners or something like that, where it's um, at least in the past, like there was at least one black woman who had been like cast off of a ship and drowned, but then had children that ended up being these creatures, and they actually do have a name. They're like Wajenru. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly at all. And we're following one main character who is Yetu, who is like their historian. These people end up having like one historian who has like all these memories, and not just her own memories from ancestors. And the rest of the people sort of live more in the moment, don't really have memories of their own. Like once something happens, they're just like, oh, well, it's in the past. They don't really remember that kind of stuff. And once a year, it looks like they come together for a remembrance where the historian remembers things for them. And there is like this whole way that they do it. We haven't gotten through that yet, so I don't know much else about it. I'm liking the writing style a lot. One thing that I don't know for sure, um, but I have a feeling, is that this does also actually have autism rep in it. The main character discusses a bit at the beginning how they feel things differently than other people, and not just in the fact that she's a historian and is remembering all these, memories from ancestors that the normal Wajenru don't have. Um, but feels more things than even normal historians. And they get into the different emotions and how the way that she thinks is different, that kind of thing. And I'm thinking that's the direction that we're going in. And so I have really been enjoying so far the 2 chapters that I read in the last 20 minutes. But, that's good. That's something that I would expect because of the fact that it's not going to take me very long to read. You know what I mean?
Hello. Hello. Yeah, that's the camera. Hello. With her stolen Paw Patrol toy. That's Presley's. If he knows that she has it, he will take it away. It is Wednesday. It is actually 3 p.m. because we went to Costco this morning and the kids had naps, and it's just been a little bit busy of a day. I haven't read anything yet today, but I did finish The Deep last night. I obviously started these during reading sprints, and I finished it last night in bed with the kids. I gave it 5 stars. Oh, hello. Hello. I gave it 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this one. I loved the characters and the story that was told. And yes, it does deal with some hard topics because of the fact that the Wajenru are descended from African slave women who were thrown overboard on the boats coming to America while they were pregnant. So they were born in the ocean, never breathed water, and the ocean sort of took care of them. And it is a very short one, but I absolutely enjoyed my time with it. I do want to look into, I know there's songs that I think this is based off those. Like there's a bit in the back that talks about the different interpretations and different versions of The Deep. Like this is not the only one, and so I'm very curious about those. But so far, the Trans Rights Readathon, 2 5-star reads. Like absolutely enjoying my time here. Like I said, I have not read anything else yet today. I do have plans to read more of In Between by MJ James, so that is going to be the thing that I focus on next. But I think the next thing with that, because I might go back and forth between a couple reads just depending on how I feel, is going to be Spellbound by F.T. Lukens, because that one is actually an arc that I have. It comes out on April 4th, and it was part of my TBR for this month anyway, so it's something I definitely need to get to, and it's YA compared to In Between being adult. So that might give me a little bit of a different thing, and if I can finish those 2, it's only Wednesday today, and this readathon technically goes through Monday again. I might have time for more trans books, and I'm very, very excited. Hello everyone. Today is actually Friday. I don't think I filmed at all yesterday for the vlog. I did read some more in between, which I do want to talk about a little bit, but I just didn't really do much else at all except for taking Presley to go get his blood drawn. He was a superstar, like didn't even cry or anything. I had explained to him before like exactly what we were going to be doing. He also had to be fasting, and so I don't think he was like super happy with that, but like he did amazing. And then we got donuts afterwards for a treat. He loved those. But I did have donuts. We did have donuts. But so I have been reading more in here. I am like 60% in. And I don't think that this is a bad book. I don't think it's for me necessarily, just with how the fantasy is playing out and that kind of thing, because this is a weird one in the terms of like who our main character is. Our main character is a single mother with autism, and I do really like the representation that's in here. I do think it is very well done that way, but she is not the person that the fantasy stuff is happening to. It is happening to her 8-year-old son, which is also a sort of weird age, just because of the fact that like if we were reading a middle grade book where he was a protagonist, he would be slightly older, because 8 is a little bit young for that kind of stuff, to like fully be in an adventure. So we have him trying to be in an adventure with the fantasy and stuff that's happening to him, and figuring out that he has magic and very powerful magic and how it relates to the in-between, because this is like a world separate from our own but also sort of in our own. And that obviously would not have been very good if he's 8. Like, it just doesn't work for that age. So of course you need your mother there. But she's just sort of along for the ride. And so everything that's happening is just sort of happening around her. She has no real agency for herself in this book, because things are just happening around her. And again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I do like her as a mother. I do like her as a character in the way that the representation is happening, but for the actual fantasy story, it's not quite hitting it for me that way. So I do feel like this is going to be something that people are really going to enjoy. I just don't think the fantasy aspect, like where I like fantasy, where I like to see things happen, it's just not quite there. And then one other thing that I wanted to mention is this is also supposed to be a romantic and a sexual rep as well for the mother, which is another Own Voices thing for this author. The only thing is, for me, is I knew going into it that that's what we had. We had the autism rep and we had the Arrow Ace rep. The only thing is it's only been mentioned a couple times, and it's so vague that it's in the fact of like this mother used to date somebody and said, I broke up with him because I couldn't give him what he wants. And then there was another time where somebody else is in here where in fantasy romance books it would have lended itself very well to a romance. She said something like, to other people he would be, you know, beautiful or attractive or something. And that's all we've gotten. It's never been in your face, like, I do not feel attraction, I do not see myself in a romance at all. And so I'm wishing for a little bit more concreteness of the representation, because right now the way she's talking could literally be anybody who just doesn't find the other person attractive or isn't ready for a romance or a relationship right then. And so I was just wishing for this mom to sort of say it a little bit more clearly, and maybe we'll get that later, but we're 60% in and it's just been vague instances of it so far. One thing also I will say, because I know I've sort of harped on this a little bit, I don't think this is bad whatsoever. I think this one might not be for me. This author though does have a new book coming out at the very end of March. I think it's in time for the end of the Trans Rights Readathon. It could maybe not be, it might be after, but the new book is sci-fi based, and I'm actually very curious about that, because I know this author and I, because I've talked to them before, like we're sort of friends on Instagram and through YouTube and stuff. We both like Star Trek, and I'm very curious about how the sci-fi one is going to be, because as far as I understand, it's still going to be the Ace rep and the Arrow rep. I don't know if there's any sort of autism rep or mother type of stuff. Like, I don't think it's necessarily female representation either, because this is a non-binary author. We might have non-binary rep in the next one, but I am curious about that one because I think that genre might be better for me than this one. But I am going to finish it. I'm hoping to maybe finish it today. We shall see, because I still want to read Spellbound by F.T. Lukens, at least, before the end of this readathon. So, yeah. It is a blueberry. So that is going to be it for now. I don't want it to sound like I'm hating on this book, even though I don't think I am. It's just like little things like that I just don't think are personally for me, but it might be for other people. So I am gonna finish it though, because I need to know how it ends at the same time, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's gonna be the update for now. Hello everyone. Someone's getting fussy and almost ready for a nap. But it is Saturday morning. I did not read anything yesterday. That is my bad, but it was just not a reading day. We had some stuff going on, a little bit busy, but like, not a reading day. It was my sister's 13th birthday, so like I said, we had some stuff going on, but no reading got done. However, I did get some book mail recently, which it's on the bookshelf and I have a cranky sort of baby. So I'm just gonna tell you guys about it and explain sort of where I'm going with this. Hey Presley, you wanna help me? Come on over. Can you get the book? Can you look at the bookshelf? Can you get that green book right there?
Green book?
Next to your hand, there's a green book on the top of the stack.
Oh, I can't get it.
Right there, that one. That green one? Yeah, that one. Can you reach it? Good job. It's okay if it falls. It's okay. Good job. Can you bring that to me? You did it. You did. Okay, can you come bring that book? Yeah, put that one back up there. Perfect. Thank you. And then bring me that one.
That one?
Yeah, careful. Get off the table. Be careful. Good job. Here we go. Presley got it for me. I received Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki, which I believe is a trans author. If you want to show the shark, it has to come down here. Right there. That's Presley's shark puppet. Good job. Okay. Which I believe is a trans author. This is a book that I've had on my, like, wish list on Amazon for a while, and I've had it on my, like, radar since before this book came out, because I actually talked about it in, like, a new releases type of video the year it came out. Like, I was super, super excited for it. Well, one of my, like, friends on Instagram and BookTube and all that kind of stuff was doing a sort of like giveaway sort of thing for the Trans Rights Readathon, where if you have a trans author or trans book, that kind of stuff on your TBR or on your wish list, they would send it. And so thank you so much, MJ, for this. Hello. Because I'm very, very excited for it. This is a trans story. Like, I think one of our main characters is trans, and it is sci-fi, which I absolutely love sci-fi. It's actually blurbed by TJ Klune as well on the front, and I've loved basically everything I've ever read from him. So I'm very, very excited for this. But because of that, I decided to also do the same sort of thing. So yesterday, one of the things that I was doing yesterday instead of reading was I posted on Instagram the same sort of thing. I did say that I got this inspiration from MJ, but I was like, hey, I want to pass on some love for trans books and trans authors, and if you want a book, I will gift a book as long as you have a trans story, so either with trans or non-binary characters or by a trans or non-binary author, I will gift you a book. Surprisingly, I haven't had too many people want one, but I think maybe it's just sort of one of those things where it's like sometimes people do, but you don't want to ask for it. But like, I was offering, but I have sent a book for every single person that has requested it, except for one person who actually is a friend that I have in real life. Basically was like, you know what, you don't have to buy me a book, but just tell me your favorites and I'll, you know, buy myself a book. And I was like, no, give me the address that you're currently staying at, or, you know, whatever you want me to send it to, because they're studying abroad right now, and I will send you a book. Like, I know you in real life, I will send you a book. So we'll see what they want. But I ended up sending out 4 trans books so far, by trans authors for the most part. I've sent out a book by F.T. Lukens, I've sent out a book by Neon Yang, I've sent out a book by Rivers Solomon, and then I also sent out Melissa by Alex Gino, and so I'm very excited to see what they think of them, because some of these authors are ones that I've read from before or have plans to read from, and other ones are just like well-known trans stories. And so yes, I still have that post up on Instagram for a few more hours now, so we'll see what people decide to do with that. But that was something I was doing yesterday, and I just wanted to share that I wanted to share love that way. Oh, I have also decided where I'm going to be donating to at the end of this readathon. The readathon is supposed to end on Monday the 27th, although I think they might be extending it through the end of March. I have some other things that I really desperately have to read to keep on track of my reading goals, so I think I still might end it on the 27th, but for every single book that I finish in that time, obviously that is a trans book, I'm going to be donating $10 per book to 1 in 10, which is a local Phoenix organization that is LGBTQ, but they do also focus on trans as well. Like obviously LGBTQ, the T is in that part, but it's for like teens and like stuff like that as well, and I just wanted to support something local. So that is what I will be doing at the end when I add up all the books that I'm currently reading. And so yeah, I'm still in the middle of in between. Everything that I said yesterday is where I'm at, because I did not read it all yesterday. But yeah, spreading love.
It's just an arrow.
It is an arrow.
Where's another arrow?
I don't know, let's find another arrow.
It's right there!
You found it?
Yeah!
Okay, get on it. Good job. Hello again and happy Monday. Today is the last day of the Trans Rights Readathon. I don't know if I updated yesterday at all, but I did end up finishing In Between by MJ James last night. I think I'm going with 3 stars just because I'm so back and forth about a lot of stuff that happens in this book. A lot of the stuff I talked about earlier with the whole I don't think this story was best served by the actual single mother. I did like the actual representation in here, especially for the autism representation. I wasn't as pleased with the aromantic asexual representation, only in the fact that this definitely takes a while for her to like try to put words to it. And it's not that she ever goes into asexual or aromantic, but knowing that the representation was supposed to be in there, a lot of it just sounded like it could have been, this isn't the guy for me. And even in the epilogue, we get a little bit of a like reminiscing almost about a previous relationship, and it still felt almost like a longing that I wasn't entirely too sure about. And then when we got to the asexual aromantic representation, like where she was actually trying to put those words to it, we immediately get one of the characters like in her face, like throwing it at her, and I don't know, I highlighted that part in my ebook because that's where I was reading it.
Mommy, can I get that?
Just trying to get everybody. And the thing is, this is what it was said. It said, you're practically a robot. You talk so easily about love, but you are incapable of it yourself. That was by a character that we're supposed to like it's a supportive character. The thing is, at that point, she had only told him, like, I don't think I can do this like with you or with other people. Like, it's not that she even came out and was like, I never feel this, until after that. Like, it was one of those things where I was just very confused why that was being thrown in her face, especially since upon the reading of it, she doesn't feel like a robot. And so I don't know if that's just something, because again, those representations, the autistic, aromantic, asexual sort of stuff, is own voices for the author. Maybe that's something that they're pulling from real life experiences and it just didn't translate as well to characters that didn't know this character very much. But there was that. And then the ending did feel a little bit quick. We don't actually get to like hear the main bad guy talk until 88% into this book, and then everything is resolved by like 95, and then there's like the ending stuff. And so I just felt like it was a little bit rushed. Like maybe this could have been better with a younger protagonist, maybe not necessarily the son at 8 years old, maybe make him a little bit older, or change it into a duology instead of one book, because the ending did feel rushed. But besides that, I was liking, like I said, the autism representation, and maybe just the fantasy telling of it wasn't my thing. Like I said sometime before in this video, they do have a science fiction that they have written coming out at the very end of this month, and I think that one could be better for me personally. This isn't necessarily a bad book. It's just I had some issues with little bits and pieces in it, obviously, but I'm glad I read it. And I did actually also start Spellbound by F.T. Lukens. The thing is, I have a PT appointment with Presley today. He has an evaluation, so I don't know how much reading I'm going to be getting done, but I did start reading this last night. I'm 57 pages in, really liking it so far. Like, the writing is very easy to get into. We basically have one character who does not have magic. Like, they used to live with their grandmother. The grandmother has since passed, and the grandma had magic, and so they're trying to break back into this world of magic, and he goes and gets a job with a warlock. I don't think they specify. A magic user who specializes in breaking curses and stuff, and we have since had him meet up with the other main character, because we do have two different points of views in this book, who is a non-binary character. They use they them pronouns, and they don't really like each other, and I'm very curious how this is going to play out. So I definitely want to continue reading this. This is on my actual TBR for the month anyway, and it is a new book that is coming out like April 4th, I think that's the Tuesday. So I'm going to finish it by the end of the month. I just don't think I'm necessarily going to be vlogging more necessarily today, because I don't know if I'm going to be reading more until tonight, and I need to edit this vlog to go up tomorrow. You guys are going to see this on Tuesday. But I am really liking it, and it's going to be finished, so stay tuned for my wrap-up of the month. You'll hear about it there. And then I actually did receive some more books. So first, I received another book from MJ, actually. They were the one that had sent me Light from Uncommon Stars, and saw that I commented on like one of their Instagram posts about An Unkindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon, and the fact that I read The Deep and loved it. And this is a longer sci-fi novel from this author, and we both love sci-fi, which is why I am excited for their sci-fi book. So they also sent me this one. I need to read this one. I don't remember much about it, except for the fact that like it's a sci-fi, and I like love The Deep, so like I'm in, you know what I mean? And then I talked about how I sent some books out. One of those people decided to send me books back, and thank you, Nicky, so much. We do have Dragon Pearl by Yoon-Ha Lee. This is a middle grade in the Rick Riordan Presents like line, but it is going to be like based on Korean mythology, and it is a sci-fi, which is very, very exciting. And this author is trans, so I'm very excited for this one. And then we also have The Bone Witch by Rin Chupeco, who is a non-binary author. This one is more necromancy, dark fantasy, YA sort of stuff, and I'm very excited for this as well. She mentioned, Nicky, the person who sent these to me, on her little note that these would be perfect for book club, and I agree. We're reading obviously a different book in April for book club, but these could definitely be nominations next time, and I would be very, very excited. So yeah, I think, wasn't expecting a haul in this vlog or anything, but I am very, very excited, especially since 3 out of the 4 books I got are sci-fi, and I'm always looking for more sci-fi. So I think that's sort of where we're going to end it for now. I am going to be donating, like I said before, $10 per book to 1 in 10 Phoenix, which is an LGBTQ organization. So I think as of currently, I've read 3 whole books, but I'm going to count Spellbound as well. And I will be doing that as soon as this readathon is over, basically later today. But I do have some things to go do with Presley, and I have to edit this video and everything too. But I will have information for that organization down below too, just in case you're interested. But that is what's going to be happening, and I think this is where I'm going to end the vlog. Overall, I was very pleasantly surprised because The Deep I gave 5 stars. Cinder Ella I gave 5 stars. In between, this is MJ's debut book, and so for a debut with elements that I wasn't entirely sure about, I was, again, very pleasantly surprised by this. I'm very much looking forward to the sci-fi book, and then I haven't finished Spellbound yet, but I will finish it. You will hear about it in my wrap-up for March, because that is going to be coming up soon. We're so close to the end of March. Okay, that's it. I'm going to stop talking. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you read some books for the Trans Rights Readathon as well, because it was definitely for a good cause. I always have trans and non-binary authors and characters in books on my bookshelves, but I don't dedicate my time to reading them specifically, like in a week-long thing. So this was actually very, very fun, very, very nice. And that is going to be it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I have videos coming out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye!